Hi, I'm Lucas Meldrum and welcome to that Windsurf Podcast. This is the podcast where we have conversations with people in and around the windsurf community with a new topic and new guests each week. Since a lot of us are stuck at home at the moment, I thought I'd bring that beach talk to the comfort of your home. If you enjoy this, then go give it a like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, there's loads of old stuff on there. And if you know anyone else who might like it also, then let them know and share the pod. Right, enough of that, let's get into it.
What are you even on about? Oh yeah, Windsurf loads.
They weren't hungover that day.
Not adult cartoons.
If you can't stop thinking about it, don't stop working for it.
How's it going, people? Welcome back to that Windsurf Podcast. This is the third episode and we're going down a slightly different route in this one, away from the glamour of the top pros and deep down and dirty, talking about season life. I've got two experienced seasonaires with me today. First up, we have the person who taught me to jump, chop up, Sandy Clunas, and upcoming female freestyler, Clare Elliott. Hello, welcome.
Hello, hey.
Thank you for having us, mate.
Yeah, no worries. Cool, yeah, so the listeners have probably figured out already, but we have a bit of a pattern. We start off talking about the current situation, the C word. So how's it affecting you guys and how are you keeping entertained and surviving?
Go for it, Sandy.
Well, yeah, I mean, as we were saying before we started recording, I drove up to Scotland pretty much at the beginning of the lockdown. My mum lives up here by herself, and to be honest, it's a safer place to be. So I'm up in the Highlands of Scotland, and it's pretty nice. Like, we've got the beach 5-10 minutes walk away. We've got the woods, so I've pretty much resorted to being a Labrador. I'm just eating my meals a day and going out for a walk. I'm lucky enough. I work from home anyway, so it's not made a huge difference to me. I'm kind of, you know, I've got a lot less work on than I did have, but I've still got enough, and I'm just sort of getting on with that. And I just finished rewatching all of Game of Thrones, so there you go.
I actually just finished watching all of them for the first time.
Oh, mate, nice. It's a good thing to do.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Nice.
Claire, how you been getting on?
So I actually got back from Cape Town and then went straight on a snowboarding holiday. And then 24 hours after my snowboarding holiday, that is when they shut the UK, pretty much. So yeah, lucky enough, I was I still am based in Exmouth, down in Devon. So I'm living with my mum and the rest of my family, which has been really nice. I've kept my head down. I've done a shed load of fitness. A bit like Sandy, I've turned into a bit of a dog as well, or a Labrador.
Yeah.
Turned into a dog. And yeah, I'm sort of structuring my days around a lot of fitness in the morning, have a bit of a chill, do a bit of DIY, and then, yeah, go on a nice walk with the dog. And that's it, really. Nice early nights. So, yeah, I've quite enjoyed it. Funny enough, for the last 7 years, there's been so much moving around for me that I've actually quite enjoyed staying in one place and, you know, enjoying the little things and just living a bit slower for a bit.
Yeah, the simple life. I think that's the same with everyone pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah. I actually said to my brother today, I said, it feels like I've retired 50 years too early.
Yeah.
I'm like fully enjoying life like a retired person.
Yeah. Other than the fact that we all can't get on the water. That's the only problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one big problem, yeah.
Yeah.
The speech is going on now, isn't it? The BJ speech. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I'd rather be doing this than listening to that, to be honest.
Yeah. There's definitely light at the end of the tunnel, so we'll get through it.
Yeah, exactly. Where, you know, it could be a lot worse, couldn't it? Than
Yeah,
all of us
definitely.
having to sit at home and watch TV and all this. So, like, I've actually quite enjoyed it. Like, I'm spending, you know, I've not been at home for this long for years, so it's quite nice being up here. And I think we've all just got to try and find a bit of zen amongst it all and just get through it, really.
Definitely. I mean, it helps if you're self-motivated anyway, but I think staying positive and you know, taking up a new hobby or a new sport, or, you know, just keeping busy, that is the main thing.
All right then, so we'll get into sort of your backstories, so where you started windsurfing and your season life and coaching.
So I started windsurfing when I was 18, so 10 years ago now. Fuck, I'm really old. Can I swear? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, swearing's allowed.
Good. So I started windsurfing 10 years ago. I I got to my last year of school up here, and I didn't really windsurf. I'd done it a bit on like sunsail holidays when I was a kid, but I was never really that bothered. But got to my last year of school, got into uni, decided I didn't want to go. My dad found this thing called Flying Fish, which are like a company that run instructor courses. They do like 0 to hero courses. So I chose to do the one in Australia, in Sydney, and I did 12 weeks. I did 6 weeks sailing, 6 weeks windsurfing. And the first couple of weeks of windsurfing, I fucking hated it. I couldn't do it. I was the only one in the group that couldn't sail upwind. It just pissed me off no end. But I kind of finished that loving it, and I got a job with Nielsen through that. And then I kind of never really looked back. And then while I was on my first season in Greece, I found out there was this place called Vass that apparently was really good for windsurfing. So I just begged my manager, and I was like, please, if they need anyone to go to the Nielsen resort there, can I go? So I went and just worked my ass off. And then the next season, I got offered Vass for that summer. In between those early seasons, I started going to Egypt. Like I started getting into freestyle and came back to Vass. And then that was when I met you. And we had a sick week, actually. It was just me and you.
Yeah, that was one of the best weeks. Yeah, that was awesome.
Oh, mate, it was awesome. And I just went out. I think I was just doing Spocks at the time. So I went out and I was just teaching you to Vulcan a little bit and just doing Spocks. And I was like, this is a perfect week. And then through that, I went back to Egypt and kind of hung out with the Club Vass guys quite a lot more, and realized that was kind of I wanted to go down a bit more of a windsurf specific route, whereas, Nielsen kind of does more all round water sports. So I went to Club Vass, and then, and that was kind of it, mate. I was at Club Vass for 5 years. And in between that, all of us who worked at Club Vass used to go on winter trips together. Like I went to Brazil. Like I know you guys were in Cape Town this year. I did a couple of trips to Cape Town, just did all that. And then I kind of finished my season life, if you will, being the assistant manager of 2XS on West England for the last year and a half or so. And now I finished that in beginning of September last year.
And what are you doing now?
Now I kind of left the industry a little bit. I do freelance social media management stuff. So I'm in kind of social media marketing now.
Okay, that's cool.
But it means I can work from home, and I get an awful lot of time on the water.
I was going to say, yeah, that's a pretty good job to have. Is that an easy thing to get into, to transition from?
Well, it's weird. It's one of those things. I think a lot of people in water sports and stuff have these kind of jobs, like remotely working, or a lot of people who used to do seasons and stuff have kind of figured out that's the kind of job to do if you want to keep going on the water a lot. So I've got a few friends that are in digital marketing and stuff, and all this, and kind of just chatted to them, and I was like, look, is this a job? And I was already running all the social media to XS and stuff, so I had the best part of a year's experience of doing it, and I just decided to just go out on my own and do it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that. Claire, how did you start off in the industry?
So I finished school and I started my A-levels. Absolutely hated it. Far too academic and far too sort of city life for me. So I ended up doing a diploma in outdoor leisure at an agricultural college, which is just down the road from Exmouth. So that was a 1.5-year course. After my outdoor diploma, most of my group, or my tutor group, they all ended up getting jobs in the UK, sort of mountaineering and land-based stuff. And growing up in Devon, I've always loved the water. I've liked sailing and surfing. I really, really wanted to venture further afield and actually get out of the UK. I was 19 at the time. And I found a job in Greece, in Lefkada. And it was for a company called Sunsail. I think, Sandy, you mentioned you've been on Sunsail holidays.
Yeah, I have. When I was a young lad.
A wee boy. I worked for Sunsail, and it was their last beach resort before they actually closed. They only do flotilla holidays now, which is yachting. So that was a season working with the kids club. And then it was actually at the end of that season, I gave windsurfing a go. A bit like Sandy, I absolutely hated it. I was paired up with, she called herself an instructor, but she put me on a 7-meter sail, and God knows what board it was. I couldn't even uphaul the thing. And hated it. Didn't do it for a couple of months after that. And I actually, it was a day off, and some of the guys were going to Vass actually, which was about an 1.5-hour drive. And they asked me if I wanted to come, so I did. Ended up, going to just check out Vass. I didn't windsurf. I just sort of admired the place, and I thought, right, okay, that's what windsurfing's about. That looks cool. Let's give it another shot, which I did. And then, yeah, it was pretty much the end of that season. And we were offered a lot of a lot of cheap kit. I think they were doing this mega deal, like £100 a board, 50 quid a sail. And it was all these, like, all this kit that had basically just been in storage from past seasons. So I took them up on that offer, ended up bringing back like 3 boards, which included a wave board, freestyle board and a free ride board, and then just a mishmash of loads of old sails. And then, yeah, that was probably the best investment I've ever done in my life. And that was it, really. I went to Dahab that winter, and probably the next couple of seasons after that as well. Unfortunately, this was actually a couple of years too late. I missed the like Club Vass boom in Dahab, unfortunately. So this is when actually Dahab started quietening down. But yeah, I mean, I did a lot of time in Egypt, and that's kind of where I learned and got my sort of freestyle inspiration as well. So after that season, I went on to work for a company called Ocean Elements for a couple of years. And then I just moved closer and closer and closer to Club Vass and finally got a job with them. So I've been with them for 4 years now, hoping to go back, meant to be there at the moment. But yeah, and of course, me and Sandy know each other from Club Vass. And then, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's cool. Actually, Claire, I wanted to also bring this up. How's that transition been from like right at the bottom to not being able to windsurf, right to being a world tour event?
Well, so I guess I picked it up pretty quick. I've always been really sporty, and I think the biggest drive for me is I've always been competitive. So, you know, whatever I take up, if someone's doing it better than me, I want to be better than them in the nicest possible way. So yeah, I've got a lot of self-motivation, a lot of drive. I guess that helps me get where I am now. It was actually one of my first seasons. Max and who went to PWA that first year? Max Rowe, Jamie Howard, Sam Green, and I think Ollie Townsend. They all actually went to compete. So they took a couple of weeks off work, and yeah. And I remember sat there on the big screen with the girls, and it was my friend Emily. I think she sort of turned to me and mentioned. She said, "Claire, why don't you do it?" And I was a bit like, "No, I can't do that." And I just remember getting a lot of support from the girls and the boys, and said, "No, you should really go for it." And the following year, I went for it, obviously with a lot of support from my friends and Club Vass. So yeah, it was a really, really great experience. That was in 2017. I went to do the Fuerteventura World Cup.
Do you think doing a season, being at Club Vass has really helped to do that? I guess it's quite cool because when you finish school and you want to be like, try and be a top windsurfer, it's pretty hard to go from there. But if you go through doing a season somewhere, a couple seasons, and you're actually working, you're earning money and you're windsurfing, that can help you a lot.
Oh, massively. I mean, the water time I've had, and you get to have on a season is incredible. And I think if we'd gone back a few years, I don't think I would have ever dreamed about actually doing a worldwide competition, let alone a national one. So yeah, I'm pretty happy. So yeah, like the ongoing support and tips from everyone, it's kind of, yeah, Club Vass have got me there. And I think the other thing is the winter seasons, so the Cape Town trips, the Dahab trips, that's all, consistent windsurfing for more than just a week holiday. So I definitely have consistent windsurfing time. So that's really, really helped with progression.
How does that work? Do you just save up all the money from the season and then go off on a trip in the winter?
Yeah, it's not that glamorous. I do end up coming back to Devon or elsewhere and waitressing for a bit. I actually work in a burger bar down in...
I worked in a leisure centre when we used to do the trips.
Oh, yeah, God. With your Lucasade Sport.
The John Mackey Leisure Centre.
Couple of months, live at home. So, yeah, I'm lucky enough. I don't have to pay rent or anything. So my mum's really, really supportive in that sense. But, yeah, head down, save, and then escape when you can.
I want to start with the application process, like when you're looking around and you're thinking, oh, I want to do a season, where do you start off?
It's difficult because obviously I've done it kind of both ways. So like a large company like Nielsen or something, there's obviously a pretty long, rigorous application process. You know, you've got to do, my first ones, I had to go along, and then you go through this group thing and you've got to like come up with some presentation and do that. And then after you've done that, you have your one-to-one, and then they kind of go, oh, you know, they used to have these like open days and stuff, and you go along and do this. And then Club Vass, obviously, it's kind of different. Like, I think what people don't realize is, or you realize this about every industry really, but, you know, windsurfing especially, like, it's a really small industry. So as soon as you're in, everyone's got a mate that works at another center that could help you get the job. You know what I mean? So I was kind of like, oh, well, I think Club Vass is where I want to work. And I was lucky enough, I was already in Vass. So on my day off from Nielsen, I went down to Club Vass and asked if I could have a chat to Ollie from the manager of Club Vass. And then when we were in Cape Town and stuff, like, you know, Ollie was doing kind of, you know, Skype interviews. He sometimes wouldn't be able to come windsurfing in the morning because he's doing kind of Skype interviews and stuff. So I think Club Vass do it a little bit more personally, which I think is a nicer way to do it, but it's, you know, it's difficult because it's a private centre rather than a kind of large operation, you know, you've got 10 resorts.
Yeah.
But if you're applying for someone like Nielsen, would they just send you to any old resort?
Yeah, I think you can. Well, when I worked there, certainly you used to be able to put your top 3 down, like your preferences. So, you know, for example, say like, you know, if you're someone who's listening to this is probably more into windsurfing than sailing or something, so they'd put down, oh, I want to go to Vass, or, you know, the windy resorts. Whereas someone who just wants to go for a piss up and you know, do a dinghy regatta or two, they're probably not that bothered about going to Vass, you know.
Yeah.
You know, there are people like that, and some people literally just want to go and might want to go biking, or, you know, I don't know. But Club Vass is obviously a lot more specific, and there's a bit of a hierarchy at Club Vass. You know, kind of, you got to do your time. So like me and Claire, we kind of come from the same boat, don't we? In that we'd already done two or three.
I definitely say, you know, I've worked my way up, and I finally got to Club Vass, and it's been tough, but I got there in the end, kind of thing. Yeah,
exactly. You know, and I think for us specifically as windsurfers, that, as we've said already, that's where we wanted to go. So that was kind of the light at the end of the tunnel. And some people do seasons elsewhere, and then they get straight in and work on the beach for Club Vass, so they're an instructor. Some people, because Flying Fish, who I did my course with, are also based in Vass, out of Club Vass. So some people will come fresh off a course, and then they might go and kind of work on the bar for a couple of months, or, you know, they work on the bar and do the odd week, like shadowing an instructor. The instructor can kind of give feedback to the senior instructors on the beach and stuff, and go from there. And then it's difficult because, you know, there's only X amount of spaces, and there's hundreds of people that want the job.
I guess for anyone out there who's thinking of doing it, you know, you don't have to have any qualifications really in any water sports. As long as you sort of, you know, work hard, you can go up the levels, can't you?
Yeah, 100%. Like, dude, because the nature of me doing Flying Fish, I had my Nielsen interviews and stuff before I'd even gone and done my course. So they're chatting to me like, right, what have you got? What have you got? And I was like, well, I will have in 3 months' time is this, and this. But at the time, I was like, I don't even know how to get on a windsurf board. But I was like, once I'm done, I promise I'll be a start instructor. And because you've got that, you know, you really don't need to be good at. I think a lot of people shy away and they're like, oh, I'm not good enough to do it. And like, you know, Claire, you might agree with me with this. Like, I was shit at windsurfing when I became an instructor, but you only need to be the level above what you teach. So
what I really struggled with on my start course. So because I was so new to windsurfing, I actually learned on a 107 freestyle taboo thing.
Right.
I struggled so much on my beginner course because I couldn't ride the kit. Like, I couldn't, for the life of me, windsurf on like a 200 litre board and a small rig.
Really?
I just couldn't do it. No. And I don't know if Sam Ross might remember, but because I obviously didn't start on one of them.
Yeah.
And I found it so hard. the instructing side of things was fine, but it was actually doing the demos on such different kit.
Yeah, I think this is another reason why we love Club Vass. I'm sorry, Lucas, if we're going off the question.
No, go.
But like Club Vass, they're RYA affiliated and not an RYA training centre necessarily. So we don't have to do the whole the kind
Read
of
off the book.
Exactly, mate. And I think that encouraged like all of us as instructors to kind of just find our own way of teaching. And like sometimes it doesn't work so well, like especially, you know, you're a bit hungover in the morning and you're doing a chat, and then other days you find a bit of gold and you kind of just say it to someone and they just go, holy shit, I did my first water start, or I, you know, got around my first carve jibe. And if you really stuck to the book, they might not have got there, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I would say, like, all the seasons leading up to, well, before I worked for Club Vass, I was located in different spots around Lefkard Island, and I think that was like a really good slow build up for me. If you are interested in going to Vass, like, it's almost good to come with a bit of experience first.
For sure. It can be pretty daunting, can't it? Like, you know,
Exactly.
you arrive there, and like, especially if you're not really as into it to begin with, and it sounds like the instructors are all talking a different language almost, doesn't it? And spocks and flackers and shackers, and everyone's like, what are you even on about? And I think it can be pretty difficult to do. But then at the same time, I guess, you know, I think some people thrive off that, don't they, Claire? Like, do you remember one of the bar staff on your first season at Club Vass? He never windsurfed before, and he finished the season like coming into the beach and sliding back on Vulcans in like 4 or 5 months.
For sure.
Which is insane.
Yeah. So as daunting as it is a place to learn, and you'll be inspired, and countless amounts of encouragement as well.
Everyone realistically, like, I'm sure everyone does it, but like at Club Vass especially, like we do tend to rip the shit out of each other, but everyone's like still super, there's always that banter element to it, but it is a really welcoming place. And you know, it's quite loyal. You know, once you're part of the team, you're kind of part of the team, and everyone's got your back. And whether you have a shit lesson, or whether you're struggling to get through the day because you're so hungover, or, you know, anything like that, or, you know, everyone's really, really good to each other. And I think that's got better throughout the years.
So you got your application, you're off to Vass. So what time of the year about now, don't you go? About this time of year? And then how do you start the season? You got to prepare for everything. How does that work?
I guess, well, Claire, would you be going on Sunday, or you be going today, Claire?
Yeah, today, if not earlier.
Oh, mate.
Yeah, probably a couple of weeks ago, to be honest.
We usually arrive, or we used to arrive, and then it's like 2 weeks of setup, isn't it, Claire? And then and setup was pretty fun. Like, do you remember the first year you did? We rigged every sail in one day. We did 300 sails in one day.
Yeah. Finished at like 10 p.m. at night. I tell you what, that was the best beer I've ever drank.
Yeah. Claire, I'm gonna make a confession on this podcast. That day, I didn't rig a single sail.
You didn't.
I was chief of unboxing. I was chief of unboxing. I was being a clipboard wanker with Ollie. And I remember I was just like directing rubbish and then directing masts to other people. By the end of the day, I remember, like, it was about 8 o'clock. We switched the lights on, and Ollie brought out like a massive tray of beers, and he was like, we were all just like, to the break of dawn.
That was our fuel, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were like, let's just get. And then I remember afterwards we were like, oh, we've done it. And we all went out in town, and about 20 minutes later, we'd all just gone to bed. It's super hard work, the setup of it, isn't it? But like, when the centre's done, it's so satisfying.
So what, you got to rig everything up, and what's the rest of the setup like?
So obviously you arrive, you meet the team, you get into your accommodation, and then you basically have, I mean, it's very similar for other centres as well. You basically have 2 to 3 weeks of intense hard graft work, which includes maintenance, building, gardening, all of it, just to make your centre look incredible.
Carrying, isn't it? A lot of lifting, carrying.
Yeah, a lot of
moving plant pots.
A lot of PPM, which is pointless pile moving. That's like intense 2 to 3 weeks, and then before you know it, you've got a coach full of guests arriving.
How's the first day when all the guests arrive?
Oh mate, it's funny because the first 2 weeks, because as Claire said, like the place is like a building site when you arrive. So no one looks very nice. Everyone wears their worst clothes doing setup, and then so the day the guests arrive, everyone just walks in, and you're like, oh, new boardies. All the girls, everyone's like, everyone's had a bit of a shave and a haircut, and they've got their newest pair of shorts on, and it's a pretty funny day, I think. And it's a really nice day usually because you're pretty proud. Well, I certainly was. Like everyone was like pretty proud of how the centre usually looked. You're like, oh, this looks sick, and you're quite excited. And then you get all the guests coming, and they walk down the decking, and they all just start stroking boards. And then you kind of that night was always really good. They always arrive on a Sunday. We used to have a bit of a Sunday social in the evening, and usually at the beginning of the season, it's a lot of like returning guests. So it's a lot of people we all kind of know quite well because they all tend to come out before the kind of school holidays and all this. So it's quite a nice reunion almost.
Like, yeah, a lot of returning guests, which is a lot less daunting.
Yeah. And there's always like staff arriving for those first few weeks as well that, on that Sunday, you've probably got a load of staff, new members of staff arriving with the guests. So it's quite exciting. And you're kind of, everyone's so fresh as well. You're kind of excited to just get started, Yeah. Nice.
How does that compare to the end of the season?
Oh mate, you're fucked by the end. you're everyone. Well, you just get fatigue, mate. Like you usually everyone talks about mid-season blues, and you hit a wall at around the end of July, and you're like, oh, and everyone does it and seems to just have a week where they don't go out and they just kind of chill, and then they're not windsurfing super late or anything, and then you kind of get a bit of a second wind, and then by the time it comes round to packing the centre up, we only take a week to pack the centre up, and that's more work, I reckon, and usually the weather's not so good either. So usually you got these huge thunderstorms. Like I remember standing in the beach hut, me and Sam standing in the beach hut on our first season, pouring acid onto boom cleats for about 3 hours in like the biggest storm you've ever seen in your life, and the beach hut doesn't have walls, so we're like standing in it, just disgusting, horrible. But it's again, like there's that camaraderie, and it's like in the trenches together, and you're like, let's get this done. Each part of the season has its own like positives and negatives, I think. Like peak season, it's super busy. You work 12, 13-hour days. You're absolutely knackered all the time. But at the same time, there's so many people there, and there's so much going on, and there's a party all the time. And usually peak season is when it's really windy as well. So you just keep riding the wave for like 6 weeks, and you just don't stop. So yeah, I don't know what your experience was like, Claire, but that's certainly what I found. It's like,
yeah, peaks and troughs, and at the end of the day, you're working long hours. It's hard. But you've got the sun and wind to fuel you. You've got
exactly.
You've got a beer to fuel you. Copious amounts of lager.
Yeah, exactly.
You've also got like the surrounding team as well, and I think it's the same for all places, not just Club Vass. You are a close-knit team. You work together. There's going to be ups and downs, but at the end of the day, you sit down, the day's done, and you share a beer with your whole team, and got through another day, and it's good.
And there's nothing better than the evening session at the end of the day, because the wind stays late and all the guests come off the water because they're all knackered, and they finish, and then you just hear the last click of the last padlock, and then all the staff just go straight back out on the water, and you've got usually the water kind of seems to like flatten out at the end of the day, and there's all sorts of chat about the wind in Vass and how it gets better later on, and it used to kick in at 1 o'clock every day back in my day. Certainly, so much chat. But then you all come in and drink a few beers, and it's a really, really good way to end a day.
Yeah, I mean, I do actually kind of admire you guys, the seasonal workers, because people from the outside, they might think, oh look, they're having fun, they're in Greece for the whole summer, they're drinking, having a laugh. But at the end of the day, I've worked a few times at my local water sports centre, and it is hard work, like long days, 12-hour days, and then every week it's like a repeat, I guess. You're saying the same stuff every time, so it is hard work.
For sure, mate. I think it used to make me cringe when and I hope these guests are listening. when they used to come out and, oh, when are you going to get a real job then? And it used to make me laugh because it's like, well, you've paid thousands to come out for me to teach you to do something you love. How define that not being a real job to me? You know, mate, I'm working my ass off here.
Yeah,
and
it's hard work. It's a different type of job is what it is.
Yeah, completely, mate. You know, it's not like doing an office job, or even it's not even like doing it in the UK and stuff, because you're not just a windsurfing instructor like you potentially would be at a centre in the UK. You're also like a host as well. You know, these guys are on holiday and you've got to make sure they're having fun. And, you know, we do entertainments every Friday night and we cook a barbecue for them. And you are a bit of like a host as well as an instructor, you know.
And unlike, you know, other jobs around the world, like you can't switch off. You know, you're on the go all day until that centre is shut. You know, there's a lot of thinking. You have to plan your lessons, and it's, you know, it's hard graft and it's physical as well. You're running around, you know, you're windsurfing like almost all day sometimes. Out of your lessons, you could be allocated to do a tower stint, which is like sort of lifeguarding the bay, or you could be put on a powerboat and providing a rescue service. So, you know, it's full on. And it's so funny, like the guys at home, they say like, oh, when are you going off on your summer holiday? And it's just like, when I go work at that restaurant, I can switch off and I can serve waitress, and it's the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah, I used to treat my job at home like the holiday from being on season.
Exactly.
I'd be like wandering around the leisure centre, just not really giving a shit at all. And I'm like, you know,
true to the name, mate, leisure.
Just cruising, and then, you know, kind of like when I get to Vass, and that looks like the holiday, but that's when the work starts.
At the end of the day, it's very much a work hard, play hard attitude in these sort of seasonal jobs. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like there's so much extracurricular stuff we do. Like we do Club Vass especially, you know, you do the entertainments every Friday for the guests, which is like kind of celebrity juice style sort of shows. We did that, and then, you know, every year in August we do the Club Vass Oscars. Anyone doesn't know what they are, type that into YouTube and enjoy. There's loads of, you know, we used to like remake film trailers basically. So we did like Mad Max, we did Batman, you guys did Jurassic Park the fucking year I left. I was trying to get Jurassic Park made for years, and then they did it finally the year I left. I was gutted. You know, all that. But that's a lot of work. It looks fun again, but that's hours and hours of staying up editing, of having to film on top of your day. You know, it's difficult, but it's very fun. There's always stories of people going, oh yeah, you know, as soon as they get home from a season, you pretty much sleep for about 3 days. And that's true. Like I literally just used to get back, put my clothes in the wash and just chill for like 3 days before I even got up and started planning anything. I'd be like, right, I need to stop.
Yeah, you definitely get like a end of season come down.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it, actually.
Let's talk about the negative. It's the come down. You know, you've been stuck in this bubble with surrounded by all your friends, then that all goes. The 6 month thing it can be tough, and it is for me. I always find it tough because, you know, you make your sort of base there, and then it's all gone for a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I keep going back.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I think everyone kind of knows when they're like, right, yeah, I'm kind of done with it now. But like, you know, maybe this sounds stupid, but you kind of, you know, you're at the center of so much like action and stuff going on and people everywhere and parties and all this. And then you kind of get home, especially if it's the home you like grew up in.
I know.
You get home and you're like, right, well, what now then? And like, I think
everything slows down.
Yeah, one of the things that kind of kept me going was knowing that every year I came back, I knew I had a winter trip to go on. So, you know, I'd get back and I'd be like, right, 6 weeks or 7 weeks of like, let's just go work my ass off, save as much money as I can, and then I get to go to Cape Town for 3 months. You know?
Yeah, same here.
Any of you ever thought of doing a winter season, like doing the whole year sort of thing?
What, like a winter season as in snow?
Yeah.
Nah, it crossed my mind after my first season, like before I was super into windsurfing. Because at that time, Nielsen had a base out in Whistler in Canada. And I was like, that sounds pretty sick. And apparently it was really hard to get into. And I applied and I got a job in the Alps just as like a waiter and stuff. And I was like, well, I can do that, or I got that. I also got offered a job back in Australia, teaching on the beach I worked at in Australia. And I was like, do I want to go and be a waiter in the Alps? Or do I want to go back and be a windsurfing instructor on a beach in Australia? And I was like, well, I'll do that. And then after that, I went to Vass and I kind of was like learning to Vulcan at the end of the season. And I was like, well, I've really enjoyed this and I'm nearly there. So I just went to Egypt, and then I kind of never looked back, because I started getting super into like the freestyle after that. So I was like, well, I just felt like I was on a bit of a mission. So I never really wanted to take the break from it.
Understandable. Claire, have you ever thought of it?
Yeah, I was very, very similar to Sandy. I think like once I started learning freestyle, I didn't want any breaks in the windsurfing. I wanted to do it all the time, whenever I could. I have just so in March I was lucky enough to go on a family ski trip for a week to see my brother, who actually worked out in the Alps. And I've been skiing a few times, and I actually took up snowboarding day 2, and I picked that up really quickly, and I bloody loved it. It was so fun. And I think when I was sat in like the après bar listening to the music and stuff, I could like see the other seasonaires, and it was so weird not to be a seasonaire but in a seasonaire place. And I was just watching like a group of seasonaires, like they were obviously on their day off, and you know they've all got a drink in their hand, they've been on the slopes all day, they're having the best time in the sun, and you know this really cool house music's blaring out. And I was thinking like, actually a winter season would be really, really sick. But I probably won't do one now. I like windsurfing too much.
Yeah, mate. I like windsurfing. I like being in the sun.
I think I can't really take up another sport now. I've dedicated too much to windsurfing now.
Yeah, I agree.
Blood, sweat and tears. I'm in it for the long haul.
That's it.
Just going back a little bit, I really want to find out what happens day in the life of an instructor at Club Vass.
We used to do that for entertainment. Claire, your day was definitely really different to mine, because you cared a lot more about your fitness.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit of an anomaly in the whole like day in a life, to be honest, because I ended up getting up mega early and doing about 2 hours of fitness. So Sandy, you can go for like the typical seasonaire. Sandy, you go for it.
What are you trying to say? Typical day, Club Vass, you know, and again, Vass is one of those things, and it actually works really well because the wind kicks in later. We didn't actually used to start work till 10 o'clock, which is epic, especially when you're spending some nights in the town. So we used to, get up at like 9 o'clock, roll into work. You pretty much all had mopeds. Our staff house is like 30 seconds on the moped from the hotel. Go to the hotel. Club Vass again. We're very lucky. Club Vass used to feed us 3 meals a day. So you go in, you can get free breakfast, or they used to do like eggs and beans and toast and all that for €1 or a couple of euros. So we used to get that, called power breakfast. Used to get that, and then there's like a staff table. There's a staff table. It's a bit like King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. You all kind of sit round this enormous table, and like I don't think I've ever laughed more in one place in my life. Like, it's the funniest place in the world. And in the morning, like, everyone's in and everyone's watching like, a windsurf video on the computer, and there's like 4 people huddled around it, and everyone, and then we have the morning meeting at 10 o'clock. You do that, and then lessons start at like 10:30, 11. And then we like stagger lunch breaks from like 1 till 3. And then usually wind kicks in around 3. After you finish your teaching, you like come back into the beach hut, and you used to have a list, and you put your name on the list, and then you're free to start going on rotations. So we used to get 40-minute windsurf rotations. And Club Vass, if there's one thing Club Vass have done absolutely perfectly, it is the rotation system. Like, the amount of sailing you get as a member of staff, if the rotation system's working and everyone knows what they're doing, mate, I used to get 3 or 4 rotations a day. You're sailing for like 2.5, 3 hours in a day.
So you're guaranteed to windsurf every day if it's windy?
If it's windy, yeah, mate. Unless over the weekends it can be sometimes difficult, because half the team have a day off Saturday, half the team have a day off Sunday. So if you're a bit stretched, sometimes if you're at the bottom of the rota, so like usually the people teaching advanced, we're on the rota last, but it's kind of different, because if you're on advanced, usually you're teaching either from your own kit or on, you're kind of cruising around and windsurfing anyway. Whereas if you're teaching intermediates, obviously you can't go and practice your flackers or whatever while you're out on the water, which we used to get a lot of instructors doing. People shouting at them, trying to water start, instructors coming through and absolutely ending themselves trying to do a flacker in front of their group. That's when you start to question the professionalism. But yeah, and then you get, you get your rotations towards the end of the day, and that's an epic time of the day because all the guests are already windsurfing or they're kind of finishing up, because usually rotations are 4:30 onwards, and realistically the guests, if they're not conditioned to do so much windsurfing, they can probably only ever do an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, and then you kind of finish the day late. I think the latest we ever finished was like 9 o'clock, but that was rare. Usually it was like 7:30, maybe 7:45, finish, straight to the beach bar, have a beer, and then staff food. And usually a lot of the guests used to eat at Club Vass, so you kind of sit there and you might sit with your group for a bit and drink a couple of beers. Like, I think another thing that Club Vass do right that maybe other resorts could learn from, and again, this is me being very biased, is that there's nowhere near as much enforced fun at Club Vass. And I hate enforced fun, where they're like, right, you have to go and sit with your group and talk to them.
Oh, it's so awkward. That's still my first season.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen at Club Vass because, all the guests are usually really cool and they're all really stoked to be there. And, of course, as a member of staff, someone comes up and offers you a beer, you're very rarely going to say, oh, no, please don't buy me a beer. But, because there's so many returning guests, you kind of get to know them over the years, and it's a really nice vibe in the evening. And then, depending on what you want to do, you either head into town, till the break of dawn, or you go to bed. And then wake up, do it all again, Groundhog Day. That's kind of it in a nutshell, mate. I mean, obviously every day is different, but that's pretty much it. There's usually a bit of a lull in the middle of the day. Everyone hits we used to call it the Great Wall of China, because typically lunch was a lot of pasta. Pasta with mystery meat.
There's a few pros there. I know Max Rowe, Bubble used to go there, and Jamie.
Yeah.
And obviously Claire, you're doing a lot nowadays. So how do their routines differ from the average instructor, or do they change at all?
Nah, not really. Like other than when everyone went to Fuerte for like 2 weeks. And I remember one year, I think that was the first year you went, Claire, that left us in the shit a little bit. Because so many people went to Fuerte. But it was all right. But like I think you guys all went, and then Marco also went to help commentate with Yaklar. So there was like 5 or 6 members of staff that went to Fuerte. But day to day, it's not like you didn't get any more windsurfing time or anything, did you, Claire? No,
and at the end of the day, they're not okay. They might have been a bit put out, but Club Vass was so proud of their team. They're not going to say no, you can't go. They had such good attitude about it. And they just had to work twice as hard for their fellow teammates to go compete, which
I think, to be honest, it was one of those things that was really worrying when you guys went, but I think it was actually fine. It's one of those things, and like as you said, it really helped Club Vass out, and it kind of puts us on the map a little bit. It's like, look at all our instructors that are going competing on the world tours, and certainly when you guys were competing, like, the whole centre just stopped and everyone was just watching the massive TV on the bar. Like no one's like, there's like 2 people running the beach and everyone else just went up to watch like Claire's heat or Jim Jam's heat or Max's heat, anyone. So it was always like a real big kind of couple of weeks when those guys were there. But I'd say in general, you're, regardless of, what you are, Max, any of them, you're very much like you're an instructor first and then you're a pro. Yeah. You're there.
So they would teach beginners and all the rest of it as well, or they just...
Not really, because everyone, as you kind of worked at Club Vass more, there was kind of certain instructors that kind of did certain kind of levels, because there was always new instructors and stuff that potentially couldn't teach, the advanced levels and stuff. So pretty much like myself, Claire, a guy called Ed, Max, and Jim Jam and stuff, we'd always be kind of teaching kind of either sort of higher intermediates or like advanced level, and then you have potentially kind of lower level instructors teaching that. But again, it's something you work up to. My first my first couple of seasons, pretty much all I did was teach kids. But I taught what you call, well, it's called pro kids now. A bit like you, Lucas, like teaching you to jump and stuff when you were young. I did that quite a lot in my first couple of years at Club Vass. You know, I think you sometimes do get typecast a little bit, but I think you get typecast at what you're good at. And
it makes sense.
For sure, mate. You know, you're trying to give the guests a good experience. You know, it's a bit like why me and Sam used to do a lot of kids, because we're still kids, you know. You know, we still behave like children, so they just used to put us with the children. But you know, it worked really well. I think everyone kind of found their niche and found what they like doing.
Yeah, I think like whatever you teach, like everyone's pretty happy with what they're teaching. You'll never be put in a situation where you're uncomfortable. I think everyone does find their niche. I absolutely thrive off teaching intermediates. I've done a lot of intermediates the last couple of years. But then, yeah, again, I like to mix it up a bit as well. Otherwise, it does get fairly repetitive. And I think not just personal windsurfing progression, but actually the coaching progression at Club Vass. If you want to go and do your advanced instructor, they'll go out their way to make that happen and make sure that you're fully up to scratch before you go and do your course. And it's really good coaching progression if you want to build up your qualifications.
Obviously, you're both professionals when you do your job at Seasons, but there's got to be some good drunk stories. I want to know some drunk stories anyway.
Some drunk stories? Oh dear, Luke. Drunk story. Dude, oh my God, sitting right next to me, I have something called the Beach Hut Diary, Lucas.
Oh my God.
I can't tell you, this is full of what we used to write information in this, of various funny things that happened throughout the season.
Oh wow.
But you know, a lot of them probably can't be said across this. But you know, there's a lot of like people, you know, a certain member of staff, I shan't name him, but he passed out in the driveway of the staff house, and they found him the next morning, and he was lying, you know, like Dracula, you know, he lies completely like a pencil, and he's just got his hands over his chest. He was just fast asleep, and it's like, you know, 10 o'clock in the morning, it's already super hot, sunny, and he's just lying there. Looks like a corpse. We had this place called the Bachelor Pad, and it's like a little bungalow in the middle of the olive groves. Claire, you actually lived you were our neighbour for a little while, weren't you?
I was, yeah.
Yeah, we lived there, and we had a wild sling. Do you know what a wild sling is? It's like a 3-man water balloon catapult. I remember pretty drunk coming back one night, and we all got that and started like flinging each other's shoes across a field and flinging. We tried to fling a plastic chair, and then it snapped and nearly took Sam's back off. We shot Sam in the back with it once, actually, as well. That was pretty funny. I think
what happens in the morning when you got to teach?
There was one time. I mean, me and Ollie Townsend, we had to teach a duck jibe lesson on the lawn, and I've never been so hungover in my life. Like I couldn't even talk. I literally couldn't talk, and neither could he. And I'm like standing there. I've got a pint of fizzy water, just straight up fizzy water from the machine. Sorry, bar staff, I know you shouldn't be giving us free fizzy water, but you did. I'm standing there with this pint, and I'm just sort of lapping it like a cat, because I can't actually drink anything. And I'm just trying to tell people, I'm like, right guys, duck jibes, what we're gonna. And then every kind of minute or two, I just have to just sort of wave at Ollie, and he'd stand up, take the pint glass off me, and I'd go and sit down again. And then he'd be like, okay, so duck jibe, right, yeah, so you know, flip the rig, and then he'd tag me in, and this went on for an hour and a half, and we just couldn't say anything. And I don't really know how we got through it, but luckily we got no complaints, and I think a couple of people might have even learnt to duck jibe. So one of those things, you do build up a tolerance for it, and you do kind of get used to sort of operating on that level of you just always got a bit of booze in your system. You know, for me, I don't get nearly as hungover out there as I do in the UK and stuff. I don't know whether it's because it's warm, or you kind of just jump in the sea in the morning if you need to, and you're like, oh.
The best cure, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of takes you out of it. But yeah, certainly, you know, when I've been teaching advanced, and you're, you know, standing on the lawn and it's 35 degrees, and you're on a simulator talking through downwind 360s, and you're you literally feel like you're melting. The hangovers aren't always fun, and a lot of the funny stories are just people just getting really drunk and being sick.
Countless amounts of stories, but you got to experience it for yourself if you want to hear them.
Well, I was going to say, has anyone got fired from a bad experience like that?
Like it's never really been the instructor staff, shall we say. There's the kitchen staff, however, is another level. There's a few chefs that have been fired. Typically, chefs like to drink some beers of an evening. So we lost a few chefs doing various bad things. But not really, mate. It kind of comes with the territory. They kind of know that you're going to go out and you're going to get drunk, and that's kind of part of the season experience. Just as long as you don't make a fool of yourself, and if you do make a fool of yourself, say sorry, and or if you can, just don't let anyone see you doing it. If you're going to be hungover the next day, keep your sunglasses on and brush your teeth a lot. Everyone's pretty accepting of it, and usually as well, a lot of the guests are there for a bit of a jolly as well. Usually they're all, certainly on like the Saturday, they all come down after we had the Friday night party, and they're all more hungover than us. It's hilarious. I've got pictures of me and my friend Ed taught a group one year, and we've got like pictures of all of us the next morning, and we're all just literally the whole group's just like sitting in front of us asleep. We're trying to teach, and me and Ed are like trying to not to sleep as well, and they're just all asleep. We're like, all right.
Oh, sad they weren't hungover that day.
Oh yeah, maybe not. Maybe it was just my lesson. Because they've been up for 4 hours doing fitness with you, Claire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All good vibes in the end, though.
Oh, mate, it's epic, and I think it comes with it. And the beach bar in Vass is one of those places for me as well. Like, just one of the best spots in the world. So if I could be sitting anywhere right now, I'd be sitting there.
Awesome. Well, there's Clare and Sandy's guide to season life.
Yeah.
So anyone listening, hopefully you've been inspired. And if you know anyone who's been thinking about it, then why don't you go share the podcast and let them know?
When do you want to start?
Yeah.
I'm actually meant to be going to uni next year. So,
oh, really?
So I'm going to uni. I guess a lot of people go to uni and then they have the summer off and they do a season, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Sorry, Sam. If you're listening to this and you are starting uni or you are at uni, that doesn't mean to say that you can't do a season. We've got something called high season or low season, and we got loads of students that come out and work for us. And that's not just Club Vass. That goes for any season. You don't have to do the full season. You can do it for as short amount of time as you want, really.
Yeah, we used to get people coming out for like 6 weeks, and we'd just smash it out for 6 weeks and have a lovely time, and get better at windsurfing and love it, and then just go back to uni. We used to get like a couple of student windsurfing trips that would come out to Vass every summer in my first few seasons there, and it was always pretty fun. Just a load of rowdy students coming out. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see. You hear a lot of chat. Oh, windsurfing's dead now. It's a dying sport. And for me, I've not seen any evidence of that at all. To be honest.
No. I'll definitely think about it. I'll keep it in the back of my mind, maybe one day. I think we'll start to wrap it up. I usually do a quick fire round if you guys are up for that.
Yeah, for sure, mate.
Quick questions, quick answers. Start with guilty pleasure.
What a naughty question, Lucas. What do
I like? Have to be.
It doesn't have to be. I don't know, guilty pleasure. I love just watching Star Wars cartoons all the time. So maybe that's a guilty pleasure for me, but I don't really feel that guilty about it.
Adult cartoons.
No, not adult cartoons. Like on Disney Plus, watching Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Oh, okay.
I used to have all of that on my hard drive, and I used to watch it like every night when I was in Vass. I'd like get home and I'd just watch an episode of that before going to bed. I guess that's a guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure.
Yeah, Claire, go.
Owl City. Follow your plans.
Right.
Over with.
This is something that sort of, before I go for a session, sometimes I might put a song on that motivates me. Do you have your motivational song for windsurfing?
Oh. Each trip seemed to have like a different song for me. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
like sometimes I was on trips and I'd get like super hyped up when I was listening to that. You know, what have I been listening to recently? Oh, Claire? What's the Kanye West one that was on? Oh, Black Skinhead by Kanye West.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That gets me real fired up to go windsurfing.
Claire, do you have a song?
I like a lot of house music. So any sort of house, techno music.
Something that, you know, just any song that's going to get you.
Something with beat.
Favorite surfer on tour, windsurfer?
Favorite windsurfer? I love Yarden Meyer, the Israelian.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if he really competes. I don't know if he competed last year, but he's a freestyler. His style is so sick. He does a lot of the moves that I like to do, but much, much better.
Sounds good. Claire?
My favourite windsurfer is it's going to have to be one of my best friends, Hannah Poschinger from Austria. We always seem to meet up in Cape Town or Egypt, and I think, she's an inspiration, and she also does a bit of freestyle, and she's a really cool girl.
I feel like my answer was really shallow now, Claire. I feel like I should have said Max or Jim Jam now or something, but sorry, boys.
Every answer's good. Every answer's good on here.
If we're talking pro, I think big shout out to Micah Hoverman. Absolute inspiration for me, and she's super modest as well. I just love that about her.
Maybe you've answered this already, Sandy, but if you could be quarantined in one place in the world right now, where would it be?
I mean, for me, like, if I could have, you know, the crew that would, you know, the crew that I wanted, I'd be in Vass.
Yeah.
You know, if I could be there with like all of us from Vass and, you know, all of my mates and everyone, then I'd be in Vass, mate, for sure.
Pretty similar, but at the end of the day, I think just being in the house I grew up in, and
definitely worse places to be.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I do feel very lucky.
To finish it off, what is your life motto, or if not, what motivates you in life?
Deep, Lucas.
Yeah, it's the last question. You got to really dig deep. Yeah.
On my podcast now, mate. I don't know, really. I've never really been much for a motto, but I think fucking do what makes you happy. I think it's so easy to get caught up. Should I be moving with my career, and should I be spending less time windsurfing, or should I just say fuck it and go windsurfing, and should I own a house by now? And this is maybe me projecting me right now, but you know, I think do what makes you happy. If you want to go windsurfing, go windsurfing. If you want to go to Cape Town for 3 months, go to Cape Town for 3 months, and it kind of worked out pretty well.
Claire?
It's gonna be hard to talk that one off. Probably, if you can't stop thinking about it, don't stop working for it.
Oh, boom!
Which, in a nutshell, I think about windsurfing all the time, and I'm going to keep working for it. So whether that's working a burger bar for 12-hour shifts for 2 months, you know, it all pays off because I get to spend 3 months wherever I want. Yeah, that's my little motto.
Brilliant one.
So I hope that inspires people out there.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, thank you very much, guys, for coming on. It's been great.
No problem, mate. No, thank you for having us, mate. It's nice to chat to people, to be honest.
Yeah.
Loved it. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, Sandy, I don't know if you want to mention your podcast.
Can I do a shameless plug?
Go for it, please.
No, I mean, so I started a podcast in November. It's called the After Hours Lounge. You can find it on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. And it's all about men's mental health and well-being. So I have a different guest on every week from a different walk of life. And it's just encouraging men to chat a little bit more openly about their mental health. And it's usually done over a couple of beers. So yeah, please give it a bit of love and a follow, and maybe listen to it as well. That would help. And that'd be really cool. Thank you, and thank you, Luke, for giving me the platform to ask people to listen.
No worries. That's been Sandy Clunas, Clare Elliott, and me, Lucas Meldrum. And yeah, hopefully see you next time very shortly. See you guys.
Thank you. Bye.